Hi everyone, I'm Sue Edgerley. I'm one of the employment skills specialists at Eastleigh Borough Council, and part of that role is that I am the PONToon Project Ambassador, and I engage with disadvantaged women and provide them with training and support opportunities based around new technology and digital upskilling. What I want to talk about today is very much in keeping with the PONToon Project and its aims, and it's including my own insight into female empowerment and how we can go about supporting disadvantaged women. First off, why am I qualified to talk about this? Well, over the last 20 years or so, I've worked in a couple of different roles, and they related to finding and engaging with hard-to-reach groups and providing them with various programs of training, support, motivation, and helping them to achieve the best that they can achieve. I'm obviously proud of the 20 years that I've spent in this line, and I've helped quite a few people and improved communities, but my professional life is not the whole story, and what truly makes me the person I am is that I too am a single mum and obviously a woman, and I've experienced the challenges that come with this. So the thoughts I'm sharing today about uplifting women and sort of helping them to reach their aspirations or just increase their aspirations are going to be from my professional understanding, but also tied into my own personal experiences. Hopefully I can provide some insight into what disadvantaged women need to overcome the social, financial and personal barriers that stand in their way to improving their employment situation and basically entirely, eventually their lives. So by now I am familiar with the responses that I get when I say that I am a single mum. And, it can be quite sort of heart-wrenching because I've been asked, whether are they all by the same father, or someone will make a comment about the fact that I've cost the taxpayers a lot of money. Well, I've always worked, so that isn't the case. These types of stereotypes are very harmful, and on more than one occasion I felt that people have changed the way in which they treated me once they've heard about my social situation. So it doesn't take much imagination to come to the conclusion that many single women, mums, not necessarily even mums, but those in lower socio-economic groups are being held back due to the negative perceptions that will follow them around on a day-to-day basis. And more than that, the stereotypes they eat into you. They make their way into your self-image. You begin to feel that way about yourself. And of course that means, I can't do this, I can't do that, and it starts to put even more barriers there. So in order to start pushing back against that and to begin succeeding in spite of all the negative stereotypes, it helps massively to be aware of it and to be able to recognise when it is happening. My children, 6 of which are girls by the way, are all achievers, all hard workers. I don't think I've consciously tried to mould them. Be nice to think that I have, but I haven't. I've always just found and hoped that by setting a good example, going out to work, providing for them, succeeding in my career and giving me something to be proud of, has given them that mindset of working and achieving. My kids have all been taken to various forms of childcare over the years, some successful, some not, basically in order so that I can go to work, and I've faced criticism for that as well. So one person actually said to me, why did you have children if you're just going to get somebody else to look after them, for most of the time? You can't win, so everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's fine. It's a bit of a double standard too, because I've never heard similar criticisms directed towards my husband. He was never, asked, why are you going to work and leaving the kids with someone else? And I don't suggest that I want men to be criticised either. That's not my point. I just mean it needs to be looked at. So instead, what needs to happen is a positive change in the interpretation of the aspirations of women. We need to be looking at how we can make them themselves realise that they're capable of success, whatever that looks like. Success is for that individual to decide, and show that it will lead them to be more independent, more empowered themselves. And if that strength comes from within, then obviously that's going to be more sustainable, and you'll truly, and I believe that the social and economic comfort will become available to them. It isn't about making women stronger. Women are already strong. It's about changing the way that the world perceives that strength. Empowerment is the process of increasing the capacity of individuals or groups to make choices and to inform those choices into desired actions. And now, whilst I was lucky enough to be raised in that way, which is probably why I do it, I have self-assurance. It's something that's inbuilt in me. But it's important to remember that that's not the case with everybody. You know, life's experience is what makes you, and there are things that you will need to deal with and overcome. So I can say from both personal and my professional experience that real and lasting empowerment comes from the individual. I just like this quote. It's from Beyonce, who we all know. She's a successful woman, and she said we need to reshape our own perception of how we view ourselves. So we have to step up as women and take the lead. So she's just basically saying it has to come from within, and it isn't some magical blessing that we can bestow upon others. There are things that we can do to enable and support and to nurture that spark in others. So what I'm trying to say is that I think anyone who's involved in supporting disadvantaged women can perhaps benefit from ditching the question, how can we empower women? And instead ask, what do women need in order to be empowered, to feel empowered? It's a small difference, some may say semantic difference, but it's actually crucial to making that positive change. So, what is the answer to that question? It's one of those. There's lots of answers because people are individuals. They all have different circumstances. So without delving into the psychology of it, I'm not a psychologist. One thing, everyone, not just women, but women in particular for this project, is that they can benefit greatly from knowledge, from learning more. You can never stop learning. And that's where PONToon and the provision of digital skills come in. So why digital? So basically, to touch on it briefly, you know, what's happened this year has highlighted, it's been a catalyst to showing how much digital technology is changing. We're living in an era where business is becoming primarily digital, and as that continues, we face a bigger and bigger gap between those who simply use digital technology, such as email, signing into Snapchat, Facebook, etc., to those who actually understand it and are able to develop with it. So the slow uptake in digital is well documented, and there's lots of statistics out there, but I think that there are two that really illustrate the point I'm trying to make. And those are, so 90% of companies have stated that they lack digital skills. So how are they going to increase their profit, their turnover, if their staff aren't keeping up with technology? 77% of enterprises believe that a lack of digital skills is their key hurdle to their transformation, their digital transformation. So taken together, what these two figures indicate is that there is a real opportunity for anyone with digital skills to enter into employment or start their own business successfully. What PONToon has done is said, right, if we can provide you with the support, with the training, with that extra knowledge, then you've got a real shot of achieving, you know. So we're providing those women with that opportunity. And for them, we're going to support them to take advantage of that opportunity. So how is PONToon different? You know, there are other projects out there, and, you know, female empowerment is not a new thing. So the provision of Skills and Employment Hub is a tried and tested method of supporting empowerment. It's documented, and it's certainly not unique to PONToon. Where PONToon begins to diverge from other projects I've worked on is that in many ways it's a more holistic approach. It develops with the individual, with the circumstance, so no ideas off the table. With the process of uplifting disadvantaged women, when it comes to looking at what's necessary, what's needing. As we know, everything's changing, so different approaches are looked at. And in this ever-changing world, they may need more help in a different area, more support in a different area. So after all, the journey or the process, as you want to see it, of each individual can be far more valuable than the actual outcome at the end. They will have gained confidence, knowledge, and the ability to have more sort of self-assurance, be more self-aware. A good example of what I mean is that by building confidence and nurturing creativity and encouraging entrepreneurship are very much included as part of the PONToon project training provision, as opposed to being treated as a separate add-on or irrelevant to the process of building their skills. So it's all well and good, you know, we can say that we can give a woman an understanding of some skill or some aspect of digital technology, for example, but unless they have that urge, that desire to, or a reason to pursue it in their own time, or unless they are, or just like, you know, like I said, inspired to chase a certain job or career, then it's not going to stick. It'll be a sort of flash in the pan. So I think that's something that training providers overlook. They might say, well, I've done my bit, I've taught them the skills, now they need to get on with it. But in fact, I think it's possible for us to provide that inspiration for creativity, ignite that passion for entrepreneurship, but also to make it have more impact and to more worthwhile. We're then giving those women that sense of that desire to want to grow, that empowerment to grow. And when it comes to women and girls, we know that this is the smartest investment for individuals, companies and communities and economies at large. So just across the board, basically. I thank you for your time. I hope that you've enjoyed the brief insight I've given you into the PONToon project and my views on female empowerment. Thank you. Bye-bye.